So morning everyone, and welcome to another of the Tableau football user groups. Today we've got some very interesting speakers for you as always. We've got Johannes from Borussia Mönchengladbach, and we've also got Sebastien for Data for Sports, in which we're going to be covering off the ways that they interact with data and Tableau specifically on a day-to-day basis. Our first speaker, as you'll see from the beautiful background behind him of the Gladbach Stadium, is Johannes. And so what we'll do now is pass over to Johannes to give you an introduction to himself and all things data that he works alongside. So Johannes, over to you.
Thank you. I'll just share my screen. Let's see if that works out. Okay, I hope you can see my screen now.
Yeah, we can.
Perfect. Okay, and I think we're good to go. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to share our story here in this group. I've seen a lot of content here, and I really liked it, so it's quite exciting for me. And basically, what I'm going to tell you is the data story of Borussia Mönchengladbach and how we use data. And as I really like memes, I put the sign guy in it on the second page, because I really like this kind of stuff, and I'm going to pronounce it data in the upcoming minutes. So whether you want to call it data or data, it's up to you, but so that you don't get confused, but I hope not. I have a short agenda. So at the very beginning, I just want to talk about our organization, because I think it differs a bit from what we've seen last time when Ruud told us about PSV. Then I will just tell you a bit about our development of data analysis at Borussia Mönchengladbach and our reporting history, as this is not so long ago that we changed a lot. Then just something about data collection and even data storage, then leading to reporting and how we use Tableau and how we implemented Tableau in our daily work. And because we think, or I think, that we're right in the middle, or as I would say, at the very beginning of a journey, I would just talk a bit about our vision, especially when it comes to the usage of Tableau. So looking at the organization of the staff at our first team, we have our coaching staff with our head coach, Marco Rose. And then we have several departments underneath it. So I left out our physios, and I left out some other departments, as I think they are not crucial for this presentation. I'm so sorry, but for now it's just for you to show how it all started at Borussia Mönchengladbach with data analysis. So basically, I started in the department of game analysis with my boss, Dr. Schützendorf. He came up with this idea, as he felt like he can't deal with video analysis and data analysis himself all the time. And this was 1.5 years ago, so it's a quite young story. We're not too long into it. And basically at the very start, I did a lot of game analysis when it comes to data. But very soon, we just recognized that we have to do so much more interface work and interact with all the other departments. So pretty quick, I got to work with all other departments too. And now we can say that data analysis and me, or I am the only one in the stuff for work team that actually has a common ground with pretty much every other department. Because if it's athletics and workload management or nutrition, up to game analysis and goalkeeping even, or medical and scouting. So I'm helping and trying to develop some new data cultures and structures in our first team stuff that we can use to just be up to date when it comes to data. We have some departments where we do more at the moment. So we're moving a lot faster in athletics and game analysis at the moment compared to other areas. When it comes to scouting, we don't even purchase data from external users. It's because we have a very big team of life scouts, so that is what we rely on. So for scouting, data analysis at the moment just means scanning the market, talking to external data providers, and that's just getting the feeling that we're not missing out the very, very big new and offer that can help us actually make bigger steps or a very big step forward when it comes to scouting. So that is what I'm working at. Actually, so as I said, 1.5 years, and I'm doing data analysis all on my own at Borussia Mönchengladbach. So no help. I was very jealous when I saw Ruud with his big performance team. I think that is something we're working towards, and maybe in the summer we get someone new, but we'll see. So just for you to get an idea how it all started, I want to show you the software that we used over time. So I started in 2019, pretty much at the same time, or shortly after I started, we started to use Tableau. Beforehand, data analysis was all about Excel files that we used. It was about reporting through Microsoft Access. We're using SAP Sports One as one of our main organization tools we still use, or platforms, let's say, and where we can communicate, where we can share data, where we have also data stored, especially when it comes to data of our players. To that time, we had tracking data from GP Sports for our training sessions. Basically, what changed throughout the time, and even when I came in, was we canceled Access completely, as we thought, okay, we need a BI tool that is way more powerful, or and much more fitting to what we want to do. So Tableau was the perfect choice. From then on, we did all reports from then on in Tableau. GP Sports soon, I think, was merged with Catapult, so we also changed tracking data provider, and from then on it was Catapult. As you can see, SAP Sports One is still running in our system, so we're still using it as one of our platforms. And in 2021, we actually felt like, okay, we have to go next step. So now we're building a database with PostgreSQL, using DBeaver and stuff like that to get it done. But that's all in the making, let's say. So we haven't finished yet. It's just to let you know, or show you that this is a very long journey, or so far, when it comes to, and we always have to do small steps. So to show you where we came from, I think it's very good to actually show you reports before the time we used Tableau. So that's pretty much what we did. You can see we did it with Microsoft Access. These are plain tables. It's a bit grayish. So that's basically the information that we had from one game. You can maybe see it's 2018, 2019. It's very, very basic information. And data was always distributed in PDF files. So always PDF. That is pretty much what we saw on our drives when we wanted to look in different seasons. Yes, we had Excel files as sort of a database for Access, but pretty much when it comes to how it's provided, it's always PDF files. So maybe even worse, we used screenshots beforehand. So just taking a screenshot of a online tool or an Excel table was a valid option for our people to actually distribute data to our stuff. Then also it was just a PDF file, or it just all goes into PDF files, and that's pretty much how we worked. So when I came in, we had a very strong feeling that we have to change a lot. So we have to go a couple of we have to go ahead and just be more be much better when it comes to data and how we deal with data. So the first thing that we did was actually point out what data we have and what we're working with. So and that is, I think, not too different to what Ruud showed us when it comes to PSV. I mean, it's pretty much the same data for every club. So we have physical data. We look at total distance of training sessions and games. Accelerations are a very interesting thing. And it's growing much bigger than the last time. So we're looking a lot into accelerations. And of course, we're looking at heart rate and velocity bands during training sessions. Sadly, we're not wearing our GPS trackers during the games, so we don't have heart rate during the games, only in training sessions. But that is something we're looking into, and maybe we might change it. For a bit over a year now, I think we're allowed in Bundesliga to actually wear GPS trackers during games. So that could be an option for the future, but it's not in the moment. So what we also have is event and position data from our games. So we have typical stats like shots, passes, tacklings. And if we're looking at raw data, we even have X and Y coordinates of our players. So that is something that we sometimes use. When it comes to medical and nutrition data, of course, we keep track of our injuries and our players. And of anthropometry, that is quite important. What we started to do is actually look into kilocalories. It's not too big actually. So we're not tracking our players the whole day to see how much they actually burn. It's more like that we want to get a gist of what happens during training days. That is something we're looking into. So that we can just get clues of how we can adapt when it comes to nutrition. It's quite a new field. It's a field where we are some sort of experimenting at the moment. So quite interesting for us too. And of course, we have personal data that is basically stored in our SAP systems. It's like address, contract details. And we started to add information like passport ID and all this kind of stuff to just make it much easier for us to organize trips, especially during COVID. It got quite hard to actually travel, especially to England when we were looking forward to our away game at Manchester City. So it's quite helpful to actually store a lot of personal data for our players so that we can quickly react when it comes to travels. So basically what we have are three main sources where we get data from. So we have on the top left, we have game data. That is, we have Kai and Higo systems in our stadiums in the Bundesliga. And we have Sportic Solutions as part of the DFL that delivers us all data and all data feeds. So as you might know, we have some sort of a socialist data system in the Bundesliga. So every Bundesliga club gets the same data. It's always provided by the DFL, by Sporting Solutions. So pretty much what we do is we get all data feeds from the DFL over a FTP server, store them at our drives, and then just work with it as a database. So we have always all games of Bundesliga available for our analysis. On the bottom, you see a picture of Catapult. We're using Catapult for over a year now. I think it's a quite handy and nice system. We can use raw data or already accumulated data. I would say 80-90% of the time we don't use raw data, as it's more than enough for workload management to actually just see the whole training session or parts of training sessions, but same for game data. Normally we're not using raw data. We're actually using a lot of already accumulated data. On the far right, you see a screenshot of our daily survey when it comes to health. So very important during COVID-19. We started to ask our players every morning how they feel. Do you feel healthy? Any symptoms, or any family members have any symptoms? So quite a valuable tool for us to quickly react if one of our players don't feel good or feel sick. Then we tell him that he won't even come to training ground. We isolate him. We can quickly react. So just to be very sharp when it comes to health at the moment. It's a very big topic I think for all clubs, and we see what can happen if you have players that get sick and get infected with COVID. So a big deal at the moment, and we're quite happy that we can use it. So from data collection, just a short mention our data storage, because we're actually running still 2 systems. And so on the left side, that is the system that was pre-existing when I came in. So data was basically on local computers of our staff members, or maybe in SAP if we're lucky. But these were just unconnected Excel files somewhere in the system. As I said, not connected. In SAP, even we had big problems because often data files were not named correctly. So sometimes it was just a capital letter that was different, and what makes it quite hard to actually search for it. Sometimes it was just completely different. So we had to put a lot of work into it to actually create a historic database from what we had before I started, and we're still on it. So what we did at the very beginning is tell our people that actually Excel is not a database. Still, we're using Excel as a database, so that is still a problem. But on the right-hand side, we see actually one of the solutions that we came up with very quickly. So we said we needed something where we can store data and where a lot of people have access to. So we just said, okay, let's just use internal drives that we already have and store data in these drives, and then just start working with it. So we have a lot of people who have access to it, so that everyone can see if we're up to date with our data or what's in it. That helped us a lot. And as I said before, and now we're building on an actual database. So that's our next step. So since we figured out how we collect and how we store data, we had another big problem, and this was how we actually deal with data when it comes to decision making. So we talked a lot about it, and at the very beginning we thought, okay, we can't just use data and throw it at the people, at the staff members, and tell them no, work with it. That would be way too easy, and I'm pretty sure we would have upset a lot of people with it. So we came up with the idea to just say, okay, we're using data to make better decisions and put our pre-existing knowledge to test. So that is actually how we're working with data. And as you can see, we kind of created a closed loop data system. So it's some sort of feedback system when it comes to data. The play and pause button, it should even be a stop button, is on the left side where expertise is. So we always start on the left side. We start with our expertise. We have a lot of staff members that are experts in what they do. So this is where we start asking questions, and then we're trying to answer them with data. And then we're going back to our experts and asking again, do we have more questions? If yes, we're just trying to answer them again with data. And sometimes we're running this loop once or twice or 3 times. It always depends on how tricky our questions are. But it always ends, the loop always ends on the side of the expertise of the experts. So it always matters what the expert is then analyzing at the very end when it comes to visualizations or data or whatever. And that was quite helpful for us. I'm pretty sure there will be data models and algorithms and machine learning that might jump to much better decisions in the near future. I'm pretty sure that in some areas it already exists, but given the status of our data that we have and the way we work with it, this is actually the best system that we can actually work with. So from this, I just want to show you how we actually report at the moment and how we use this closed loop in our reporting system. So this is reporting of game analysis pre-game, how we actually look at our opponents. On the top right corner, you see how the data is actually distributed. And as you might notice, we didn't change a lot. It's still a PDF file. Not too much development there, but I think the biggest thing that we did is actually use Tableau. Our databases are much bigger. So what you see on the top is a very, very basic analysis of our opponent. So we're just looking at, like, on the left side on forms. These are sprints against the ball. So we're just looking how is our opponent different from us, and then we just start asking questions, relying on these very, very simple visualizations. Or on the right side, even we're looking to how much expected goals our opponent conceded during the last games, how many expected goals the opponents had per shot. And that is a very good indicator for our video analysis to say, okay, maybe we have to look at the last games or the last 4 games, or it's special kind of games that we can point out through data. So that's quite helpful. And after we've done that, we just sit together. We're talking about the data, about the visualizations, about our opponent. And as I said, we just come up with more questions, and then we go into detail. So then we're trying to go into a higher level of detail in Tableau. Sometimes we even start from to just build new visualizations and dashboards that can actually answer these questions. So that's pretty much the fun stage in the daily routine when we just have questions that we feel like, okay, we haven't answered these, and we just have to find solutions with Tableau. It's a bit different if we're talking about post-match reports. The main difference is our peer group. So post-match reports go to every staff member and even in our staff members in higher positions. So even, let's say, Max Eberl, our manager, is looking at post-match reports. So we figured out it has to be quite easy to understand. So you see, it's a lot more colored. I'm not a design expert, but I feel like it's a bit funnier or to look at. So you see a difference in total distance compared to our opponent. You see when we scored goals, when our opponent scored goals, and then very basic running sum of our expected goals at the very bottom on the left. That is something you see very often already. We included it, built in Tableau, because we just thought it's fun to look at it, to actually get a good impression of how the game went afterwards. And the other big thing is why this report has to be a lot easier is actually that we provide it to our players. So every player gets a individual game report post-match. So you see on the right side, it's an example of Jonas Hofmann, quite a good game. He scored 2 goals. We like to see him doing it more often in the next time, but there are a couple of things that players actually really like. So heat maps are a big thing. They really like to see where they actually move, or like where they played, and their radius of movement. Then always expected goals has become a big thing. They really like to see expected goals, especially our offensive players. It's a really good KPI for them to kind of get a feeling of how dangerous they were during the game. And the third big thing that I really like that you can't see at the moment is high speed. Everyone's asking about high speed after the game, so it's sometimes it feels a little bit more like a card game that they're playing. So who has the highest high speed in the game? But that is quite a good thing for us, because we really like to educate our players to look into data, and to make it simple and to show them stats and pictures that they actually like. We feel like it's a very good game, a very good way to actually get them into looking more into data. What you see in the middle is player versus team. That's something we've come up to just make it easier for the player to get an impression of how good he was compared to his team. So for us, when someone else is looking at it, it doesn't say a lot, because you don't see if he has 40, 50, or 60% won tacklings. It just says 0 is the team's lowest score, and 10 is the team's highest score. So for them, it is quite a cool. They said it's quite a cool thing, because they can just see, okay, so sprints per minute, I've been the best in my team, regardless of how much it really was. So it's a fun thing for them to kind of see how good they were compared to the team. So that's something we've come up, and we're always trying to find new ways to actually show them data. And as you can see on the top right, it's also delivered as a PDF file. So no change in that. So now we're jumping from game analysis to athletics, where we have, I think, a bit more difficult or a bit more fun visualizations. So this is from our workload management. So what you can see here is the training sessions from Christoph Kramer over time, and we're looking at accelerations in our training sessions. So basically what we're using a lot is that we say, okay, we're looking at standard deviations compared to the team. Helped us a lot to actually get a much better impression of how good he performs during training sessions than using absolute numbers. So you'll see a lot of standard deviation values in our workload reports. And on the bottom, you see the total external workload. So just that we can see, okay, how is the data from above adding up in the external workload. It's a visualization where you can choose whatever the measure that you want to see. So we can just pick a player, pick the date, session type, or whatever. So we're trying to have a quick visualizations for athletic coaches, where they can just filter the player and the time that they want to see to then just figure out how it's actually going with them. So, and as you can see on the far top right corner, something changed. So we came up with a solution. So I have to admit, we're actually only holding one Tableau desktop license. That's all we were working with. That's I'm coming to this point later on. But so the solution we came up with is our Tableau workbooks are on a drive, and our athletic coaches use Tableau Reader to actually open these files and looking into it. Same with nutrition. So it's a very, very low-key system that we're using when it comes to Tableau. Same goes, same as here. So also here in Tableau Reader, what we see here is a session comparison. just a impression of how we're looking at sessions. So every session has a specific name, depending on how far away from a game it is. So it can be +1, -2, something like that. So we always know when this training session happened, and then we can just compare training sessions. For us, this was a very, very valuable visualizations, as we just were able to figure out where we are actually when it comes to, let's say, accelerations and total distance, and workload management in weeks where we have 2 games, sometimes even 3 games in 8 days. We had that too. So that was quite valuable to see if we actually managed to go lower in total distance or lower on accelerations when we had a high external load because of games. That was something we came up, and then just comparing sessions, quite valuable for us. Right. So that's basically what we use Tableau also as I said, in nutrition, when it comes to nutrition reports. But these are, I would say, very raw and unfinished, let's say, and we're still working on it, still finding a good way to actually report data with Tableau when it comes to nutrition. And yeah, sometimes it's just let's say spontaneous ideas that we have when it comes to data. Sometimes we just see an Excel file or something, an old Excel file, and we're just trying to figure out what we can do with it. So Tableau also is for us some sort of a tool to just explore data that we find in our system, and it's still a lot of fun. So at the very end, because as I said before, I feel like we're at the very beginning of a journey. I want to tell you a bit about our vision and for us what's next with Tableau. So maybe the best news we got the last weeks was that Tableau opened their license packages. So we don't have to purchase 5 Explorer or 100 View licenses. So that actually was really, really nice to hear. So we're planning on purchasing more licenses in the next week or next couple of weeks. So we'll add on, and then we don't have to use Tableau Reader anymore. We have our Tableau server, but actually we're building on it. We're putting all our dashboards and all our workbooks into Tableau server. So that is mostly already done, but we can't distribute it so far as we don't have any licenses. That's what's coming next for us. So that will be a big step. And what we're actually working on too is live data analysis. So we're building an automated database, and what we really want to do is that we have live data available during games on the bench. And we will definitely do this with Tableau. So the solution will be that we have a device, maybe an iPad or something like that, on the bench with Tableau on it, and maybe 1, maybe 2 dashboards where our coaches get basic information about data of our game. So that is the next step that we have in this regard. And looking a bit further into the future, what we were planning on is to create player data terminals. So as I said, we want to educate our players to look into data, and actually that is something we want to do with Tableau as well. So we're looking into building player data terminals where players can just access data from opponents or other players or their own stats, and just browse through data and see what's happened in the last games. Yeah, that is quite a thing that we want to do in the next couple of weeks and month. Quite exciting times ahead. I think, as I said, we're just starting. 1.5 years are not too much time. Tableau has been a really, really great solution for us to actually achieve all these goals that we have when it comes to data distribution. And I'm really looking forward what's coming next for us. I think next year we will have a new trainer, a new coach at our club, and it's always exciting to see what he brings to the table. So yeah, that will be quite fun, I guess. That's from me. Thank you very much. It was very nice to actually show you what we do. And if you have any questions or if you want to reach out to hear more, then just feel free to contact me.
Brilliant, Jonas. That was amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. We're going to have a Q&A now, so anyone that is live, feel free to use the Q&A box to type that. There's some questions that just off the top of my head I'm really interested in, so be good to kind of pick your brains around that. There's some really interesting pieces you carried upon, and the first one that stands out to me is that you mentioned, your coaching staff engage with it, and even the manager. And I think there's a big piece that people talk around of how you get managers and coaches to engage with data. I've heard lots of people getting 45-page PowerPoints, and that by the fourth page they're not engaging. So what are kind of the principles that you frame around? I know you've mentioned it's fun to see or easy to see, but what are sort of the principles that you do for coaches and managers to be able to engage with that?
So the very first thing that we did is to implement some sort of a gatekeeper system, because very early we said it doesn't make any sense to as you said, to let our head coach read a 45-page report about an opponent. So basically what we do is I'm looking at the whole data, so I'm using a lot of time to actually figure out what could be interesting for us. We have a couple of dashboards and a couple of things that we always look at because it's always interesting. But besides that, I'm always trying to explore data more just to see what is outstanding for our next opponent. And that is actually something that I communicate with our head game analyst. And then we're just talking about it, and actually he decides what is going through to our head coach. So it's basically I'm the gatekeeper for data itself. So what we're including in our head game analyst is the gatekeeper to our head coach. And normally, so some games it's just a couple of visualizations that we want to show him. We sometimes even have 2 or 3 visualizations that we feel like could help him to actually support a statement towards the team. So if we want to run more, we're looking really for data that can we can help him to fight arguments why it's worth running more. So and so I think this system with 2 gatekeepers is quite interesting. And so we want our coaches to get the feeling that they actually only get what they really need. So, and that is also part of our closed loop system. So it should always be what they really need.
Yeah, brilliant. So yeah, almost like a data translator to the relevant information. That's really interesting. The next point as well that just jumped off the page to me is really around the vision statement. I could probably pull apart holes in all of it in terms of I want to know all the details of it. So I'm just going to try and stay really like to the high level stuff here. But you mentioned the way that you currently have everyone engaging is via reading. You're really excited to move to a Tableau server. What are the main reasons that are sort of driving that for you? Because I'm aware a lot of people that I've spoken to in the industry do use Riegger, for example, and look at it in type of static. So what for you is the exciting part of moving across?
So one of the most exciting things is that we don't, let's say, I don't want to say we don't have any data culture, but let's say we're at the very beginning of building a data culture, and we have a lot of people, as I said, they love to actually have a piece of paper in their hands to write on it, but we just feel like Tableau is so much more valuable when you start interacting with data, when you start filtering yourself, when you ask questions. So this is something we really want to see from our stuff. And one of the biggest problems is that many people are afraid of using new software. So and we just feel like if we can just provide data with a Tableau viewer license or Tableau server, it's all so data refreshes automatically. They just can always look at it. They can look it up on their devices. We just feel like that it's a much easier way for them to then interact with data, to not be afraid to use it, because that is a mindset that we first have to build in many parts of our stuff.
Absolutely, and that is another key piece right around that the difference between having like a static one, because Riegger will give you an export at that period of time, it won't refresh as your data does, so it doesn't entice people to go and ask more questions because it doesn't update. So really interesting that's that philosophy in data culture we're hearing becomes more and more valuable, right? It stops people coming back to you asking you 50 questions when they can explore it and work it out for themselves, which allows everything further. Fantastic. There's a question I'm going to tie into actually the vision piece that came in through the Q&A box, and again, if anyone does have any further questions, feel free to pop them in. But it's around, do you support coaches with data during a game or at halftime, and if so, what?
Yeah, we do. We started using the DFL data feeds, build a bit of a workaround to use them in live matches. So the delay is quite a bit bigger. So with our new database, we're looking forward to have a delay of about, let's say, 20 to 30 seconds when it comes to a game. Now we have a delay of, let's say, 2 to 3 minutes sometimes. Still, this can provide valuable data. Sometimes it's about workload management. So we just when it comes to the second half, we just want to know which player is above his average when it comes to sprints. So we are storing data during the games so that we can just get an idea of how players react when they get tired, when fatigue sets in. And this is basically what we then use during the game to just give our athletic coaches and assistant coaches an idea of what we can do. Should we use our substitutions for tactical reasons, or do we have to even do workload management during games? That's what we do. Sometimes we're using event data if we see any outstanding stats, but that's very rare, I think. So most of the times we can just use video analysis or something like that that we always have. But I'm pretty sure when we have better systems, so when the structure behind it gets better, our live analysis will be much better, so we can provide more valuable data to our coaches in the future.
Fantastic. Yeah, because there's some really interesting pieces I've heard around pre-game pieces, but that halftime / in-game piece is the bit that I believe is missing. So I understand that a lot of clubs are using team sheets, and they do analysis on when a certain amount of players are picked, what the average formation is. So you can have a plan B, plan A, plan C, plan D, whatever that you may need. So when that team sheet comes in, you have a level of understanding of what that may be. A lot of that's pre-match, done on iPads in the ground once the team sheet comes in, etc. But yeah, really exciting to hear how you've been using live data moving forward. There was one piece as well I wanted to actually jump all the way back to the start on, where you mentioned that you don't use outside data sources, and this is a model that I'm starting to hear more and more now around people that are effectively coding and collecting their own data. So could you give us a bit more information around sort of the rationale and why the club looks to collect its own data?
So there are many reasons why we're actually not buying any data from external providers. So one thing actually is that let's say, I think the most interesting data that we can buy from external providers are scouting data. So of course we're looking into data scouting, we sure want to start data scouting, and sometimes we're doing it when we're just trying to focus on players from Bundesliga. It's quite easy as we have all the data available. But we're looking a lot into the second French league. We're looking over into Belgium and the Netherlands a lot. So we don't really have data from these leagues. And actually, we're not sure if data is the data that we can get at the moment is worth what it costs. So we see a lot of providers, but it's quite expensive. COVID-19 did its job when it comes to the money that we can invest. So we always have to double check if it's really worth it. So, and right now we said we didn't find the data that we totally would rely on when it comes to decision making in scouting or buying a player. So I would say it's a fair amount of skepsis and skeptic behavior.
No, really interested, genuinely, and yeah, with COVID affecting, and obviously without the fans field and the beautiful stadium behind you, it definitely has a financial impact for clubs, and it's interesting to see how you adapt to that. I know you mentioned the French second league, for example. Is there a particular reason that they would be that league? And also, just as another question, are you employing scouts, for example, over in France, or are you working with German scouts and getting them to watch the games digitally?
So why the second French league is very interesting is because I think at the moment the work with the youth teams of France is slightly better than ours. They have a lot of very, very talented players at young age. They have players that are very good, have very good technical skills, have a very good physique. Sometimes a bit raw when it comes to tactical behavior, but that's something that we see in many young players. I think what is most important. I think many clubs have to be very creative when it comes to searching for new players. Especially before COVID, you had to pay a lot of money for a good player. We have to just find smart solutions to actually search for new players. Also, Borussia is a club that has always been mostly not the last station of a good player. So we're more of a club that is a high developing club. So that's one thing.
Sure, and you can see that as well. Some of your results watching you this season have been fantastic in the Champions League, especially. The last question I've just had in from James was around that preparation layer of getting the data into Tableau. I know you mentioned that some of the sources you work with, but how are you getting that all in together to create that single source?
So at the moment, we started when I came in. I started to use a lot of Excel Power Query. A lot of that. The more data I used, I felt like that Tableau Prep Builder is a very valuable tool to actually convert a lot of files into a hyperfile, as Tableau just runs a lot more very smoothly with it. So there was definitely a way to actually do it. But we were always looking into get into a way more automated way to actually store data and get data from the sources that we have. That's the reason why we started to build a database now. So for some parts we can use it for match data. We're also we're already using PostgreSQL. We can just connect our database to Tableau, so that's quite handy. And we just try to improve more. So we know PostgreSQL. I don't know. We have good experience with it so far, but we know that maybe we have to change in the future to a more powerful database. Maybe yeah, we'll see. It's a constant. Yeah, we're just trying to change and be better and develop our systems.
Absolutely. Well, that's fantastic. And thank you so much for taking the time to speak to us and all of the user group. Very grateful as always to everyone. On that, we'll be passing over to Sebastien now for Data for Sports, and he'll be covering off everything that he works with in data and Tableau moving forward. So again, thank you, Jonas, and over to you, Sebastien.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Johannes. It was a great presentation, and the topic that I'll be showing is related to some of the points you discussed. Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, we can see that.
I guess yes. Okay. So thank you for inviting me to present. It's always a great opportunity to discuss data and sports and using Tableau. The topic of the presentation will be how can we leverage both the video and machine learning to create a new frontier. It be more a hands-on approach. We'll have a big report creation in the end. Anyway, so to give you a bit of background on myself, I'm a data scientist. So my job and my school years didn't teach me how to create reports. They taught me, however, how to go from usual data to data that you can actually use, because sometimes it's quite different, to build model and then to create reports. We've done so for many teams already, and we always want to go from ideas to insights through data. The use case that we usually work on are quite similar to the one John presented. Pre-game and post-game analytics, training, reporting and training optimization, scouting, medical, etc. So that's really the world of data in sports today. Just a quick wrap up on that, and then we'll move forward. But we've been working in France and abroad with the major teams, which gave us the opportunity to see a lot of way of doing things, a lot of ideas, and also a lot of issues that these clubs face. The issue that we'll be addressing today is that data isn't enough. No club that I've seen will rely only on data. We see a huge need for video to confirm what data can bring, whether it comes from coaches, analysts, scouts. They need video to make sure that they're not misleaded. However, we have a big problem juggling from data and reports and tools like Power BI, for instance, that don't allow to do so. But to juggle from data to video, back to data, back to video, and you just end up losing time. And that makes that data scientists and staffs end up not necessarily working together on the same tools. The key that we found to solve this issue, and that will be the topic as I said, integrating machine learning and video is using Tableau, because Tableau allows you to do so. And it has a great interface for coaches, for analysts. They can log in to the Tableau server and interact with the data themselves. It also provides a great space for data scientists, who can work on the models on their side and then integrate it directly to Tableau, and have the staffs to use them without even knowing that they do. And finally, it allows to integrate video and create a one-time stop for analysis. Let's deep dive through the use case. We really want to figure out how can we have everybody on the same page, everybody working together, from coaches to analysts, data scientists, even scouts, because the possibilities are endless once we're able to integrate both data, advanced KPIs, and video. We'll do a focus on Manchester United games using expected goals, and we'll try to figure out what we can learn from the different goals and the different shots taken by or against Manchester United this season. And in the end, we want to create a nice looking report. Well, not as nice as ones that I've seen created in the Tableau user groups, but still quite decent, where we'll be able to select games, teams, players, view the shots, the expected goals for the shots, click on the shot, and boom, launching the video. And that way we'll be able to see, for instance, all the videos of all the free kicks taken by one player. Super easy. So just to go a bit in the process of how we do it, and why we do it, and what's the time frame. It all starts before the game, when you want to analyze your competitors, and how they score, how teams against them score, and you want to, again, have at the same time your machine learning models and your video. Then during the game, we use Exasol to parse up that data live, and by the time the refresh time and the time that we apply the models, basically 30 seconds after that, we're able to display the shot on the pitch, all the events actually, but for this use case, the shots, and calculate their expected goals so that the team know directly in real time how the teams are behaving and what they need to focus on. Then the day after that, video gets delivered to the staffs. We can add the video onto the report and create something that's both a data and a video cockpit. We'll only see one video angle in this use case, but you can actually do a broadcast, can have a broadcast view, and then the tactical camera view if you have more than one camera filming the game, and you can have that all at the same space. And finally, and that's more of what we do on our side, every other day we rerun the models, update and improve them by leveraging huge clusters on AWS for almost free, because if you accept to do it during strange hours, it costs almost nothing. And so we have hundreds and thousands of models running, picking the right one, and then redeploying it to Tableau or to Exasol, depending on the use case that we have. All right, so I guess let's go for hands-on. Let's create our report with the video, and let's analyze Manchester United in EPL this season. Just a first overview of the data we have at hand. We have information about the players, the matches, and the teams. We have stored in our database the videos and the shots, data about the shots, such as X, Y, the angle of the distance to the goal, whether if it's a one-on-one, a header, it comes from a free kick, a corner, etc., etc. We have over 15 metrics on each shot. All right, so now we are on Tableau. And let's go. So as I said, we have a few tables, games, players, shots, teams, video, and that's all we'll need to create our report. The first thing that we're going to do is create a parameter to say what team we'll focus on. And well, obviously we'll focus on Manchester United. We want, as I said, to only take into account, oops. All right, it's coming. We only want to take into account the EPL for this season only. And I guess my Wi-Fi doesn't like me sharing my screen. All right, EPL and only for the current season, which is the only thing that we have anyway in this database. For the player, we have the first name, the last name, and how we'd like to display them. So let's just add all the players that we have for now. We'll figure out later if we want to check on a few of them or not. Same for the team. Let's go and add everything. And that's it. So for the shots, we have the X, the Y of the shot, so we can make a nice plot of where the shots were taken. So that's very helpful. We really understand what's going on here. Maybe if we add whether it's a goal or not a goal, it's better. Well, it's still not. It's still a bit messy. Let's try to make it a bit nicer, to have the dots go a bit to fill the dots, and let's make the goals on top so that they can be over the no goal data. I guess now what we need to do is add a soccer pitch to this field, and so let's add a blank soccer pitch. The field is actually a bit bigger than the data we have. Okay, now it's starting to make more sense. The data in Opta is ranging from 0 to 100, and now we can actually see where the shots are taken. But if we want to see but we want to see on the overall pitch, so let's edit that and say we start at -2 up to 102, and let's edit this axis as well and start from -5 to 105. All right, now we have a pretty pitch, and we can actually see where the shots were taken and what's the distance to the goal. However, having the event ID isn't quite talkative for data. So for instance, let's create a metric which would be the game name or the match name. Let's just call it match. And say the match is the home team plus the away team. And drag that onto the tooltip. Sorry, Tableau is in French, but all right. So we at least have the match that the shot was taken during the shot. Anyway, we have the match. Let's do the same and add the player, for instance, and for which team the player is playing. All right, so now we see that Bruno Fernandes for Manchester United during Burnley v Man United took a shot roughly at the top of the box and didn't score. But that is not machine learning at all. So let's add a bit of modelization and data science in that. To do so, we'll use a library called TabPy, which allows us to create create models in R or Python. We actually use Python, and to be able to call them directly from Tableau. And so we'll return a probability for each goal to actually reach the back of the net. So it's a decimal number, and we'll call our model, which is called to be very innovative XG model. It will take all the parameters that we need for this model and return the probability. The parameters that we have are the angle, the distance, and then different qualifiers for the goal. Is it shot with the foot? Is it in first touch, or did the player have time to do something with it? Is it from a free kick? Is it a penalty, etc.? And there we have our our expected goal metric. So now let's add that to the size. So something that's worth considering. Usually you wouldn't take all the championship for one season. The reason why it's, in my opinion, not the reason why it's for me not, okay, let's try that again, not a great idea is that Tableau and TabPy runs the model for every single line of data that you have. So if you have, like we do, 650 shots roughly, you'll make 650 API calls to calculate your expected goals. So what we'll do then is we'll filter the data to only a few games, just to make sure that it runs smoothly. Otherwise, it's forcing me to talk for 1.5 minutes every single time we'll make a change to the data, which is definitely not something that we want to suffer during the presentation, and definitely not something that you want in a club to wait for 1.5 minutes every single time you make a change. So once the expected goals will be calculated, we'll have the bigger dots where the expected goal is higher, and smaller dots where the expected goal is lower. What we'll do then is add a bit more context to the tooltip that we have to make sure that it's more understandable, and we'll see then how we can differentiate the shots from a team or from another. All right, so there we go. Let's hide the axis so that it looks nicer. Let's remove the 0 line. All right, there we go. And so here we have the tiny little dots, which are roughly 1% chance, 2% chance of goals, of shots to be scored. And there we have a bigger one from Sanchez for Tottenham during Man U v Tottenham Hotspur. And so that gives us a better understanding, I guess, of the shots and the situations. Let's drop the expected goals. We'll re-add them a bit later, just to save some time and to keep the presentation as short as possible. Let's just add the minute and second to the tooltip, so we know at what time the shot was taken. That will be useful when we want to compare it with the video, because that's eventually what we want to reach. And let's edit the tooltip, because we don't want all of that. Let's make it a bit nicer. Up. So for now, we don't have the expected goals showing in the tooltip because we removed it, but we'll have it later on. All right. So now the question is, how do you differentiate between, well, for instance, Burnley v Man United? That's a shot for Burnley, and let me find the shot here. Man U v Southampton, that's a shot from Aaron Wan-Bissaka. it's a bit messy not to have everything on the same side. So let's make one side for the attack, one side for the defense, so that we really see the goals for and against Manchester United. Right, so X side, and we'll do if the team that shot the goal, that shot the shot, is the team that we want to focus on, then they're on offense. So we want them to be to attack on the right side. Else, well, we want to reverse the axis and we want them to be on the other side. All right, let's do the same thing for the y-axis. Let's call it y side. And so if team name equal focus team, and here we want to reverse because otherwise we are mixing the left and the right hand side for the data. Yep, and now let's make them dimensions, and let's switch and let's replace the graph that we have to reflect those changes. My Wi-Fi really doesn't like sharing my screen at the same time as presenting. Well, once that's done, we'll re-add the expected goals so that we see what it looks like. Or actually, we'll focus on the video first. Make all the links so that we can run the videos. Oh, here we are. So there we have the shots against Manchester United on the left-hand side, for Manchester United on the right-hand side. Let's correct the X and Y. And all right, good, that's done. We lost the pitch, so let's re-add the pitch. All right, and let's reset the axis so that we have something that looks like a regular soccer pitch. Up, there we have it. Hide everything. There we are. So all the goals for Manchester United on the right-hand side, all the goals against Manchester United on the left-hand side, and to keep data a bit smaller, let's try to see. Let's focus on Manchester United versus Manchester City, Manchester Derby, to add the expected goals. The first thing that we learn here is, well, no goals were scored, but we'll be able to show the expected goals here. And since we're sending much less data to our TabPy server, it's going to be much faster. Anyway, once the while we're waiting, oh, there we are. And so let's add the expected goals back to the tooltip. There we are. So we see we have a much better understanding now of the goals, and let's increase that understanding by leveraging the video. We don't have video footage for every game, and the reason for that is well, we're not filming ourselves. So let's create a calculated field to see if we have the video or not for a game. And since the focus will be the idea will be to have the video, let's only take the games where we actually have a video footage to showcase. Now the video, as I said, we have footage for a game. We actually have two footages, one per half that is stored, but we need to sync the times in Tableau and the times in the video. So let's try to calculate the number of seconds inside the halftime, which is basically 60 times the number of minutes plus the number of seconds, except when we're during the second period, where we want to remove 45 minutes, which is exactly what we do here in a quite fancy way. And now we have the number of seconds in half for each shot. And finally, let's go and add the video URL. We see that we have the URL here. Let's pick the right time during the video to show, and let's call that URL query. Second and half, and let's say that we want the video to run 5 seconds later, 5 seconds before the shots, and from 5 seconds before to 5 seconds after the shot, to correct the possible errors in the data first, and second to see before the shot and understand what created the shot. All right, well, we have everything. Let's go and create our report. And to do so, well, going to be quite simple for the creation. We'll then move to another report that I created beforehand, to which I had a bit more time to do so. So let's add the sheet that we have here with all the shot maps. And since we want the video to be played through the URL, we want to add a web page just beneath it. We don't want to have a URL by default, because an action will create URL. Let's make it 50-50, just to be perfectly fair. We don't need to see goal or no goal from here. And well, let's change the filters just so we can select our games, so that we can select the games that we actually want to focus on, only the needed value, and let's say multiple value, so that we can select more than one game and still have the expected goals coming through. All right. Now that we have created that, I forgot to add the URL to the first worksheet. All right, and then we'll just create a simple action that will trigger the video from the blank space that we have down here, and so we can filter by game, by player, by team, etc. Since that's the filters that we've set, and then let's move to action, and we say when you select a dot in the shot map, then start the URL query, and use the web page object. Otherwise, open a browser tab. Now, something that's not super awesome when it comes to using Tableau with a Windows computer is that you cannot, or at least I didn't figure out how to actually try and see if it works. Like the video doesn't properly load, so you'll have to upload it to your Tableau server and then figure out if everything is working properly. So let's upload it. Let's upload it and see if it works. Instead of doing so, I'll just show the proper report and the clean report that is made exactly like that. And all right, so what it looks like in the end when it's reloading is you'll have filters everywhere to actually narrow down your data. You'll be able to filter directly by expected goals to figure out where the biggest opportunities were, to drop out the shots that you don't need, that you don't want to analyze or you don't need to analyze because shots from 40 yards are highly unlikely to actually score. But yeah, for instance, we see that so on the top side is Manchester United, bottom side is the opponent. We see a pretty high probability here from Bruno Fernandes. We know it's a footer. It comes from a free kick, and as we click here, the video starts here 8 seconds before, so we can actually see live the shots, and that was a decent shot. We can also have a look at higher scoring opportunities that didn't go through. For instance, the footer, the volley from Edinson Cavani against the Wolves, and that was a pretty decent shot. one out of two to go inside, didn't go through, but could have. So anyway, that's the thing. And finally, we added the opportunity to filter. For instance, if you only want free kicks, you can do #freekick, and it will filter all your free kicks, and you'll see all the free kicks, only the free kicks, for instance. We can do the same for headers, etc., etc., etc. All right. Well, I'm done with going from integrating video and machine learning at the same time within Tableau. Thank you very much. And if you have any questions, feel free.
Thanks very much, Sebastien. I do have a couple of questions. If anyone else does have questions, then feel free to put them in the Q&A box and I'll check that. But general question on connecting Tableau up with TabPy or RServe. What's the benefit, given sometimes that there is a time lag to connecting it through TabPy rather than doing the model up front and loading that in as an extract?
Well, you have different key benefits. The first one is if you want to analyze live data, for instance, it allows you not to pull your data every single time, and to execute it on only 6 or 7 or 10 or 20 shots, which takes only a few seconds, which is totally acceptable. That's the first benefit. The second benefit is that when you refresh your models, you don't need to rerun the extract directly. We refresh the models every other day. We don't want to refresh all our data to our extracts every other day. So I guess that's the second one, and the third one, to be honest, we only use that for live data. We integrate the models through exasols if we need to have hundreds or thousands or tens of thousands of shots to score, because, well, it takes 1.5 minutes for 600 shots. Imagine if you have 10,000. Good night. And don't try to filter your data afterwards, because you're back for a ride.
Yeah, okay, interesting. And the other one was around developing your own expected goals model. What are the benefits from machine learning and data science perspective around developing your own model as opposed to using one of the ones out there that the data providers might already include in the data that they provide?
Well, first of all, in the not every provider provides it every single time. So that's the first, I guess, the first reason. The second reason is to be able to have a consistent model for different providers if needed, so that in a given situation we ensure reliability of the models that we use, and hence it doesn't matter if we use Opta, StatsBomb, or anyone else, as long as we can recalculate the metrics that we need, and they are pretty easy. Easy to penalty. I mean, every provider tells you that, and hence, yeah, it gives you the flexibility to work with any provider and leverage all the data that you can have.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you very much for that. It was particularly interesting seeing the video working, being able to go back that 8 seconds before the clip and see how that worked in Tableau service. That looked really good. Thank you everyone for joining today. It was recorded, so anything that you'd like to rewatch or share with other people, then we will look at putting this up on our channel. And as always, if there are speakers that would like to put themselves forward for future events, then we're always on the lookout for speakers. But thanks very much, Johannes and Sebastien, for very interesting talks again. And hope everyone has a good day.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.